Arsenal will play Tottenham this weekend in what will be a massive game in their title hopes, with a lot of their big players hopefully returning from injury. Now in this video, we're going to talk about how Tottenham play and how Arsenal can counter it, and how I expect this game to pan out with Arsenal getting the win. So let's get into it. Now, over the last couple of weeks, it has definitely been up in the air for how many players are actually coming back from injury for this game. Now, we heard rumours that it was 3 players that were going to be back, but we didn't know who that was. And with the doubts of Woklz still being there, with Havertz picking up another knock, it kind of just felt like some of these players were not going to be there in time, which was obviously very different to what we heard before the international break. Now, luckily, it seems like there's concrete reports that Martin Odegaard is battling a return for this game, but also Noni Madueke and Martinelli will be at least on the bench and should be ready to go. So at least Arsenal are going to have winger options there, even though that means Marino is probably still going to have to be up front. But Woklz apparently isn't too far and is still reportedly ready for the Bayern game, which is big. Now, obviously, looking into this game, Arsenal are the clear favourites against Tottenham, and they should be. Their record against them is fantastic. Tottenham, under Thomas Frank, haven't got going, and you would expect Arsenal to be favourites to anyone they play at home, let alone Tottenham, which is obviously going to be a game of big importance. Now, if you look at Tottenham in the league table, you look at their stats from just a glance, you would probably think they're actually having a good season under Frank, but recently, it has not been amazing. In some of the big games they've played this season, barring City, which was the second game in, they have been awful. They've created nearly no chances. They've had no almost ability and want to actually attack. And a lot of the time, especially that Chelsea game, which is one a lot of people remember, they almost gave up and just allowed Chelsea to keep dominating them. And they were lucky to only lose 1-0, which is a big part about Frank's game. Now, if anyone watched Frank at Brentford, you know that he really was good at being in a low block at times and then transition into a high pressing mode. He goes from man to zonal very well, and he was very quick with these players. And it was why he was so good against these elite teams, especially where he would always cause problems for the big teams to play against them, which is something that isn't quite happening at Tottenham. Now, some of the big reasons why this is happening is because the midfield 2 for Tottenham, or 3, whoever they play there, is just not working. They have no one that can really pass the ball, and what we saw in the Chelsea game specifically is that Chelsea would push Tottenham down to the wide areas, which is something Arsenal like to do with their pressing as well. They would man-to-man mark, and then Tottenham just couldn't get out. A team that can't pass the ball very far, they can't really pass the ball long over the top. They're a team that relies on them avenues to carry the ball and progress up the pitch, which they just didn't have, and Chelsea were intent on them winning the ball back quite a lot. Now, obviously, I expect Arsenal to do this, and I expect this to be our MO. I don't think Tottenham are going to come to the Emirates and actually try and keep the ball. I don't think they're going to try and attack that much. I think they will mostly be sitting in a mid to low block and trying to counter-attack. So Arsenal need to pick and choose the ways that they go about things to be careful. Now, I expect Arsenal to obviously have a lot of the ball in this game, and I think they will create a lot of chances in these moments because we've seen against low blocks. Now, one of the problems about this was that if Marino is playing, Arsenal are considerably weaker than Woklz, who does consistently push that line back, which is something we spoke about after the Sunderland game. Now, against Sunderland, however, Arsenal played Marino and they played against a very deep low block, which I'm not sure Tottenham are going to go that deep, but they will probably be a little deep like that. And we were still able to consistently create chances. One of the reasons Arsenal did that is because we allowed Saka and Trossard to almost come out of the block and come more closer to the ball, and they were able to create from deeper areas. What we did is we got the midfield to push more into the box and make these runs into them areas. Eze was much more willing to go into the box and create spaces in them places. Zubimendi was that extra man consistently making runs into the box as well. And not only did it allow your 2 best crossers in the team, which is Trossard and Saka, to consistently get crosses in, they were able to take the player on and create space, and both of them did really well in that game in the second half to create a lot going on. But one of the big reasons Arsenal worked in that game is because they kept creating chaos in the box. Not just Marino, but everyone was just running at every ball, every cross that goes in there. We were getting second balls outside the box. There's multiple shots we had in them areas. And I expect this to sort of be the MO for Tottenham. Keep putting crosses in there because Vicario is not a keeper that likes to come out, so you can put pressure on their defenders, despite them obviously being better than Sunderland, and get into the second balls. And keeping a flow of the team will be important. And this is why this game might be a bit different, because because Tottenham do like breaking up games quite a lot. They've got Polina in their team, brilliant off the ball, we all know, great tackler. You look at how many tackles they make per 90, it's probably not a surprise that they're top with him starting every game. They just break up play and make the game difficult, and with Arsenal playing Tottenham, they're going to make it even more fouls, more aggression. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of yellow cards and a lot of stupid refereeing decisions. It's probably just going to happen. Now, what Arsenal need to do is they need to keep their possession and keep due diligent in ways where Mendy and Rice obviously work with each other. We keep the ball and not risk it too much. But I expect Arsenal still to try and take risks in the final third. And I think the reason why Arsenal could probably get away with this, because like we said, Tottenham will try and counter. And against Chelsea, every time they won it high up, they didn't really do much because they don't really have that pacing behind. They're more of a slow dribbling type of team now. It's completely different to what it was last year with the players that they signed, being Kudus and Xavi Simons. And whoever Arsenal play in their defence, I would expect them to have a pace advantage. Now, there is a little bit of risk here because if Saliba plays next to Mascara, for instance, I don't know if you want Mascara being the guy that always builds up. He takes a lot of risks on the ball, which I do think can be good, but I'm not sure that's what you want in this game, especially at the start. But you can have him as that late defender, the one that sweeps up and is that one-on-one guy where Saliba pushes up a little bit more. But that is a little bit of a contradictory to the role that Saliba plays, so you'll have to figure out a way to that work. This is why I kind of think Nketiah would be a better choice. I think Nketiah, even at left centre-back or left-back, and you switch with Calafiori, whatever you want to do there, could be an interesting option. Not only can he be that wider player that's always in the full-back, and if we're playing against a low block, having these wider players is important, but then I do think you miss a lot of Calafiori's unique runs, which is one of the big ways we got a lot of joy in the attacking phase against Sunderland. And this is why I kind of think this game, if we're playing a team that are going to sit in a block, we're playing against a team that want to keep breaking up chances and annoying us and not even really try and play football a lot of the time, I think that Arsenal should maybe consider playing a Miles Lewis-Skelly. Now, he's had 2 weeks off. He didn't go to the international break. He hasn't played a huge amount of minutes in the Prem, which everyone has spoken about. I don't need to go on about it here. But we know Miles will take risks on the ball. We know he can carry into them tight spaces into midfield. And if the chances open up by Arsenal spreading the team out wide, with Trossard a more wider winger, Saka being right out on this line on the right side, I really think there might be some space in the middle, but they will sit close to the block, so it depends how that works. Now, while I think most of the Arsenal team as well rights itself barring that defence with Gabriel's injury, I think a big question mark is Eze. Now, Odegaard is back from injury, but he probably won't start this game. He might not even be on the bench at the moment, but I would imagine if Arsenal need a goal late on, he comes on, we move Eze to the left sort of thing like we did against Newcastle. But Arsenal are not going to get that all-phase player, and I think there's going to be a certain level of Arsenal maybe not taking as many risks as they can. I don't know, it'd be interesting because it depends on where Arteta really thinks Tottenham are at, and Frank always does have a good game at the Emirates sometimes, so that could be a big thing here. I think Eze in this game really needs to apply himself a little bit more. He's not going to be a guy that gets on the ball a lot. He's not going to be a guy that presses a lot, which I don't think is going to be the biggest issue in this game. I don't think Tottenham are very good at building up. I don't think they're going to have a lot of the ball, so I actually think playing Eze anyway would be a fine addition, and in a sense this could be where he goes, but I think he needs to come out the block a lot more and work with the team. I actually like when he comes deeper and we move someone like Rice or Mendy up a little bit more sometimes, because one, it creates variance and I think it changes up a little bit the attack, but also I think Eze inside a block isn't always the best. And something we've seen with him when he doesn't have a huge amount of time, he's a little bit rash, a little bit instinctive, I would say sometimes, which I do want to see a little bit more from him. Now, I think in terms of him trying to receive the ball and carry it in them spaces, it's still going to be a big thing. Like I said, carrying's important. He can carry it and will try at least. But I want to see if he gets a few shots from outside the box, sort of D range. I want him to be a bit better. He's had a few recently where he snatched at it, and that is the range we want to give Eze the chances. Ultimately, Marino will be in the middle to be as a dummy for most of this game, where he just makes runs so it pulls players away to get the space to Eze, because we did that with Gyökeres, but even more so Marino because he's not an actual striker. So that's definitely something to look at. But I think in terms of this game, I think as well, Marino, Arsenal will probably go long quite a lot. Tottenham should be pretty okay from actually in the air sort of a balls. They're very good from set pieces. They are almost as good as us. It's basically the only way they score. In some of their games, they've purely just scored set pieces and done nothing from open play. So it's one of them games where I want to kind of lean on that technical ability yet again, like we did against Newcastle. A Trossard playing is one of the reasons. Eze playing is obviously another, but maybe Miles coming in with that Gabriel injury and moving Calafiori to centre back could be a way to get around that. And I wouldn't necessarily hate that at all. And I think that should be something we look at. But Mourinho will obviously bring the physicality. I expect him to play a lot deeper like he kind of did against Sunderland. Maybe be that player that passes the ball through, sort of connector, which we know Mourinho's quite good at. And I'm sure off the ball, Mourinho would do a lot of good work like he usually does. I'm just worried about physically if he can really match up to Van de Ven and Romero, who are really physical defenders. And that's the thing. Obviously, their set pieces are going to be a big dominant part of the game. I think in terms of Gabriel not being there, that's going to be big. In terms of Gyökeres not being there, from defensive corners, he is fantastic. So that's going to be a big loss. So hopefully Mourinho brings that in. And you do need a certain amount of height and physicality in there, which I think maybe will be the big reason why Arteta doesn't go for Miles, at least at the start, and someone like Hincapié or Mosquera plays. Personally, Hincapié is better in the air than Mosquera, and I think Hincapié in both left centre-back and left-back can actually rotate with Calafiori, which would be quite fun, and I think there's so much there to enjoy. So I would kind of lean to Hincapié, which I've made clear over the last couple of weeks. But Mosquera has played more than Hincapié. He's probably fitter. He's probably more ready for this scenario, obviously playing against Liverpool and big games already. I can see why he would lean to a Mosquera because it keeps the dynamics as well quite similar. I really don't want to move Saliba from his role or what he has to do in the team. Now, overall, I think it will be a good game. I don't really do these previews very much. I don't really talk about this like that, but let me know in the comments if you want to see more of this because I'll be down to do it. And obviously, it's a big game. We've got a lot of games coming up. 14, I think it is, in the next 8 weeks until New Year. So I'm very excited. Hopefully, we can get this first win before a lot of the other players come back. And thank you guys for watching. See you in the next one.